Gemini 3.1 Pro Aces Benchmarks, I suppose, by Zvi Maushowitz, March 4th, 2026. I've been trying to find a slot for this one for a while. I am thrilled that today had sufficiently little news that I am comfortable posting this. Gemini 3.1 scores very well on benchmarks, but most of us had the same reaction after briefly trying it. It's a Gemini model, and that was that, given our alternatives. But it's got its charms. Consider this a nice little, highly skippable break. The pitch. It's a good model, sir. That's the pitch.
Sundar Pichai, CEO Google. Gemini 3.1 Pro is here. Hitting 77.1% on ARKI AGI 2, it's a step forward in core reasoning, more than 2x3 Pro. With a more capable baseline, it's great for super complex tasks like visualizing difficult concepts, synthesizing data into a single view, or bringing creative projects to life. We're shipping Gemini 3.1 Pro across our consumer and developer products to bring this underlying leap in intelligence to your everyday applications right away.
Jeff Dean also highlighted ARC AGI 2 along with some cool animations, an urban planning sim, some heat transfer analysis, and the general benchmarks. On your marks. Google presents a good standard set of benchmarks, not holding back the ones where Opus 4.6 comes out on top. I tip my cap for the quick turnaround incorporating Sonnet 4.6.
Image. The image is a table of benchmark results comparing several AI models across tasks like reasoning, coding, tool use, and multimodal understanding, with the Gemini 3.1 Pro column highlighted. Each row lists a benchmark name and shows percentage or score values for different models, with some entries missing or marked as not supported.
The highlight is ARC.
ARC Prize. Gemini 3.1 Pro on ARC AGI Semi-Private Eval. Google DeepMind. ARC AGI 1. 98%, $0.52 per task. ARC AGI 2. 77%, $0.96 per task. Gemini to push the Pareto frontier of performance and efficiency.
The highlight here is covering up Claude Opus 4.6, which is in the mid-60s for a cost modestly above Gemini 3.1 Pro.
Image. The image is a dark scatter plot titled ARC AGI 2 Leaderboard, with score, percent, on the y-axis, and cost per task, dollars, on the x-axis, showing various labeled AI models as colored markers. A highlighted point for Gemini 3.1 Pro, Preview, appears near a 77% score at roughly $0.96 per task, alongside other points such as GPT 5.2 variants, Claude, Grok, and additional Gemini models.
Gemini 3.1 Pro overall looks modestly better on these evals than Opus 4.6. The official announcement doesn't give us much else. Here's a model. Good scores. The model card is thin, but offers modestly more to go on.
Gemini 3.1 Pro is the next iteration in the Gemini 3 series of models, a suite of highly intelligent and adaptive models capable of helping with real-world complexity, solving problems that require enhanced reasoning and intelligence, creativity, strategic planning, and making improvements step by step. It is particularly well-suited for applications that require agentic performance, advanced coding, long context and/or multimodal understanding, algorithmic development.
Their mundane safety numbers are a wash versus Gemini 3 Pro. Their frontier safety framework tests were run, but we don't get details. All we get is a quick summary that mostly is nothing to see here. The model reaches several alert thresholds that Gemini 3 Pro already reached, but no new ones. For machine learning R&D and misalignment, they report gains versus 3 Pro and some impressive results without giving us details, but say the model is too inconsistent to qualify. It's good to know they did run their tests and that they offer us at least this brief summary of the results. It's way better than nothing. I still consider it rather unacceptable, and as setting a very poor precedent. Gemini 3.1 is a true candidate for a frontier model, and they're giving us quick summaries at best. Other people's benchmarks. A few of the benchmarks I typically check don't seem to have tested Gemini 3.1 Pro. Weird, but we still have a solid set to look at. Artificial analysis has Gemini 3.1 Pro in the lead by a full 3 points.
Image. The image shows a bar chart titled Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, ranking multiple AI models by score. Gemini 3.1 Pro, Preview, appears highest at 57, followed by GPT 5.2, High, at 54, and Claude Opus 4.6 at 53, with the remaining models trailing down into the 30s and 40s.
Kaya's AI dashboard has Gemini 3.1 Pro way ahead on text capabilities and overall. Gemini 3.1 Pro dominates Voxel Bench at 1,725 versus 1,531 for GPT 5.2 and 1,492 for Claude Opus 4.6. Live Bench has it at 79.93, in the lead by 3.6 points over Claude Opus 4.6. Live Code Bench Pro has Gemini dominating, but the competition, Opus and Codex, aren't really there. Clay Schubiner has it on top. Although not on coding, the edge over second-place Claude Opus 4.6 comes from analytical percent and visual percent. Mercor has Gemini 3.1 Pro as the new leader in Apex agents.
Image. The image is a Gemini 3.1 Pro, new model release graphic showing an Apex Agents leaderboard, pass at 1 with horizontal bars and scores. Gemini 3.1 Pro, High, is ranked first at 33.5%, plus 3.6%, followed by Opus 4.6 at 29.8%, plus 3.6%, and GPT 5.2 Codex at 27.6%, plus 3.4%, with several other models listed below.
Mercor. Gemini 3.1 Pro completes 5 tasks that no model has been able to do before. It also tops the banking and consulting leaderboards, beating out Opus 4.6 and ChatGPT 5.2 Codex, respectively. Gemini 3. Flash still holds the top spot on our Apex Agents Law leaderboard with a 0.9% lead. See the latest Apex Agents leaderboard.
Rock Power rankings have Gemini 3.1 Pro in the A tier with GPT 5.2 and Qwen 3.5 27B behind only Gemini Flash. Opus is in the B tier. Gemini 3.1 Pro is at the top of Zero Bench. It's slightly behind on Mercor with GPT 5.2x High in front. Opus is in third. Gemini 3 DeepThink V2. Gemini 3 DeepThink arrived in the house with a major upgrade to V2 a little bit before Gemini 3.1 Pro. It turns out to be a runtime configuration of Gemini 3.1 Pro, which explains how the benchmarks were able to make such large jumps.
Google. Today, we updated Gemini 3 DeepThink to further accelerate modern science, research, and engineering. With 84.6% on ARC-AGI-2 and a new standard on humanity's last exam, see how this specialized reasoning mode is advancing research and development. Google Gemini 3. DeepThink hits benchmarks that push the frontier of intelligence. By the numbers, 48.4% on humanity's last exam, without tools. 84.6% on ARC-AGI-2, verified by ARC Prize Foundation. 3,455 ELO score on Codeforces, competitive programming.
Image. The image is a comparison table of benchmark results for several AI models, with columns for Gemini 3 DeepThink, Gemini 3 Pro Preview, Claude Opus 4.6, and GPT 5.2. It lists scores across tasks such as ARC-AGI-2, Humanities Last Exam, MMMU Pro, International Math/Physics/Chemistry Olympiad 2025, Codeforces, ELO, and CMT Benchmark, with Gemini 3 DeepThink highlighted and showing the highest values in many rows.
The new DeepThink is now available in the Gemini app for Google AI Ultra subscribers, and for the first time, we're also making DeepThink available via the Gemini API to select researchers, engineers, and enterprises. Express interest in early access here.
Those are some pretty powerful benchmark results. Let's check out the safety results. What do you mean we said it first? There are no safety results?
Nathan Calvin. Did I miss the Gemini 3 DeepThink system card? Given its dramatic jump in capabilities, seems nuts if they just didn't do one. There are really bad incentives if companies that do nothing get a free pass while cause that do disclose risks get appropriate scrutiny.
After they corrected their initial statement, Google's position is that they don't technically see the increased capability of V2 as imposing Frontier Safety Framework, FSF, requirements, but that they did indeed run additional safety testing, which they will share with us shortly. I'm happy we will got this testing, but I find the attempt to say it is not required and the delay in sharing it unacceptable. We need to be praising Anthropic and also OpenAI for doing better, even if they in some ways fell short, and sharply criticizing Google for giving us actual nothing at time of release. It was interesting to see reacts like this one, when we believed that V2 was based on 3.0, with a runtime configuration with superior scaffolding rather than on Gemini 3.1.
Noam Brown, OpenAI. Perhaps a take, but I think the criticisms of Google DeepMind's release are missing the point, and the real problem is that AI labs and safety orgs need to adapt to a world where intelligence is a function of inference compute. The corollary of this is that capabilities far beyond Gemini 3 DeepThink are already available to anyone willing to scaffold a system together that uses even more inference compute. Most preparedness frameworks were developed in approximately 2023 before the era of effective test time scaling. But today, there is a massive difference on the hardest evals between something like GPT 5.2 low and GPT 5.2 extra high. In my opinion, the proper solution is to account for inference compute when measuring model capabilities. E.g., if one were to spend $1,000 on inference with a really good scaffold, what performance could be expected on a benchmark? ARC AGI has already adopted this mindset, but few other benchmarks have. If that were the norm, then indeed releasing DeepThink probably would not result in a meaningful safety change compared to Gemini 3 Pro, other than making good scaffolds more easily available to casual users.
The jump in some benchmarks for DeepThink V2 is very large, so it makes more sense in retrospect it is based on Gemini 3.1. When I thought the difference was only the scaffold, I wrote, 1. If the scaffold Google is using is not appreciably superior to what one could already do, then it was necessary to test Gemini 3 Pro against this type of scaffold when it was first made available, and it is also necessary to test Claude or ChatGPT this way. 2. If the scaffold Google is using is appreciably superior, it needs its own tests. 3. I'd also say yes, a large part of the cost of scaling up inference is figuring out how to do it. If you make it only cost $1,000 to spend $1,000 on a query, that's a substantial jump in de facto capabilities available to a malicious actor or easily available to the model itself, and so on. 4. Like it or not, our safety cases are based largely on throwing up Swiss cheese-style barriers and using security through obscurity. That seems right for a scaffold-only upgrade with improvements of this magnitude. The V2 results look impressive, but most of the gains were, I think, captured by Gemini 3.1 Pro without invoking V2. It's hard to tell because they show different benchmarks for V2 versus Gemini 3.1. The Frontier safety reports say that once you take the added cost of V2 into account, it doesn't look more dangerous than the Gemini 3.1 baseline. That suggests that V2 is only the right move when you need its particular set of skills, and for most queries it won't help you much. Positive feedback. It does seem good at visual presentation, which the official pitches emphasized.
Junior Garcia, Gemini 3.1 Pro is insanely good at animating SVGs.
Internet person. I liked its personality from the few test messages I sent. If it's on par with 4.6/5.3, I might switch over to Gemini just because I don't like the personality of Opus 4.6. It's becoming hard to easily distinguish the capabilities of GPT/Claude/Gemini.
This is at least reporting improvement.
Eleanor Berger. Finally, capacity improved, and I got a chance to do some coding with Gemini 3.1 Pro. Definitely very smart. More agentic and better at tool calling than previous Gemini models. Weird taste in coding. Maybe something I'll get used to. Maybe just not competitive yet for code.
Aldo Cortese. I've now spent 5 hours working with Gemini 3.1 through Gemini CLI. Tool calling is better but not great. Prompt adherence is better but not great. And it's strictly worse than either Claude or Codex for both planning and implementation tasks. I have not played carefully with the AI Studio version. I guess another way to do this is just direct API access and a different coding harness, but I think the pricing models of all the top providers strongly steer us to evaluating subscription access.
Eel Rosenman. It is still possible to use them in an Oracle mode, as Peter Steinberger did in the past, but I never did that.
Meadow42. In my usual quick, non-agentic tests, it feels like a slight overall improvement over 3.0 Pro. One problem in the coding task, but 100% after giving a chance to correct. As great at handwriting OCR as 3.0. Best Scrabble board transcript yet. Only 2 misplaced tiles.
Ask no questions, there's coding to do.
Dominic Lucas. Powerful on one shot. Too willful and headlong to trust as a main driver on core agentic workflows. That said, I've been using even Gemini 3 Flash on many small projects in anti-gravity and Gemini CLI just fine. Just a bit hesitant to unleash it on a big code base and trust it won't make changes behind my back. Having said that, the one-shot reasoning on some tasks is something else. If you want a complex SVG of abstract geometric shapes and are willing to wait 6 minutes for it, Gemini 3.1 Pro is your model.
Ben Schultz. A lot of the same issues as 3.0 Pro. It would just start coding rather than ask for context. I use the app version. It is quite good at brainstorming but can't quite hang with Claude and ChatGPT in terms of theoretical physics knowledge. Lots of weird caveats in string theory and QFT or QCD. Good coding, though, finds my pipeline bugs quickly.
Type bulb. Gemini 3.1 is smart, quickly solving a problem that even Opus 4.6 struggled with. Also king of SVG. But then it screwed up code diffs, didn't follow instructions, made bad contextual assumptions. Like a genius who struggles with office work. Also, their CLI is flaky as fuck.
Similar reports here for non-coding tasks, a vast intelligence with not much else.
Petter Bautis. Gemini. 3.1 Pro may be a super smart model for single-shot chat responses, but it still has all the usual quirks that make it hard to use in prod. Slop language, empty responses, then 10K, nen done. Tokens, then random existential dread responses. Google still can't get their post-train formal rubrics right. It's mind-boggling and sad. I'd love to use the highest IQ model out there, plus cheaper than Sonnet.
Leo Abstract. Not noticeably smarter, but better able to handle large texts. Not sure what's going on under the hood for that improvement, though.
I never know whether to be impressed by UI generation. What, like it's hard?
Leon Lin. Gemini Pro. Gemini 3.1 UI Gen is really cracked. Just one shotted this.
Negative feedback. The most basic negative feedback is when Miles Brundage cancels Google AI Ultra. I do have Ultra, but I would definitely not have it if I wasn't writing about AI full-time. I almost never use it. One form of negative feedback is no feedback at all or saying it isn't ready yet, either the model not ready or the rollout being botched.
Dusto. It's just the lowest priority of the 3 models, sadly. Haven't had time to try it out properly. Still working with Opus 4.6 and Codex 5.3. Unless it's a huge improvement on agentic tasks, there's just no motivation to bump it up the queue. Past experiences haven't been great.
Chromium. I'd expected, given how base 3 was, that we'd see more cohesion with future post-training, and that does seem to be the case. I think they'll be really interesting in another 2 generations or so of recursive post-training.
Eleanor Berger. Google really messed up the rollout, so other than one-shotting in the app, most people didn't have a chance to do more serious work with it yet. I first managed to complete an agentic session without constantly running into API errors and rate limits earlier today.
Or the perennial favorite, the meh.
Pyotr Zaborszczyk. I don't really see any change from Gemini 3 Pro. Maybe I didn't ask hard enough questions, though. Lyria is cool, though, and fast.
Chongyu is underwhelmed by a test simulation of the solar system. Andres Rosa, inobedient and shameless like its forebear. Try Gemini Lite. Gemini 3.1 flashlight is not also available. They're claiming can outperform Gemini 2.5 flash on many tasks. My Chrome extension uses flashlight, actually, for pure speed, so this might end up being the one I use the most. I probably won't notice much difference for my purposes since I ask for very basic things. And that's basically a wrap. Gemini 3.1 Pro exists. Occasionally maybe use it.
This has been an episode of the Don't Worry About the Vase podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please visit thezv.substack.com to support the author. If you enjoy having AI-narrated episodes, please note this is a listener-supported podcast. To receive new posts and support the cost of creation, consider becoming a subscriber at dwatvpodcast.substack.com. Thanks for listening.